Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for our webinar about using the arts as part of your college applications. My name is Rachel Elmer. I'm the director of our college admissions team, and I'm thrilled to have the director of our arts admissions program, Marina McClure, with us to be our expert in all things arts tonight. Before I let her take it away, just a couple orders of business. We are recording, so if you miss anything, don't worry. We will send out the recording. You can watch it tomorrow. We will get to all the questions that were submitted. Some of you submitted some really fabulous and insightful questions, so we will answer those. Marina will make sure to address those. But as we go, if any additional questions come up, feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A function. Both of those work, and I'll be monitoring those and making sure to ask Marina and weave those into the conversation. So anything that occurs to you, any follow-up question, feel free to put it in there, and we will do our best to answer it real time. With that said, Marina, I will let you take it away and tell us a little bit about who you are and your background and how this whole program we have came to be, and then launch us into some of the overall framework of how the arts is a part of the college admissions process or can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Marina McClure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm one of the senior admissions coaches with Private Prep, and I'm the founder of our arts admissions program. I did my undergraduate at Dartmouth College and then did my graduate work at CalArts. And I wanted to just give a little bit of an overview of why I founded our arts admissions program. And it's really two different reasons. I'd been working with Private Prep for a few years, and had started to notice that I was really enjoying two different strains of things that were showing up with some of my students. I wanted to help students showcase their talents and stand out in the crowd. So those that have an artistic talent or a creative side, this is something that's really important and wonderful for universities to get to see. And there are formal ways that students can actually do that. So I wanted to make sure that those students knew that they could leverage that inside their process and use that as a part of their goals. And then the other one that I just love so much is I wanted to also show students that they can actually achieve more than they think. So I was encountering a couple students along the way, oh, I could never get into NYU, not with my grades or my test scores. And then we started to unpack that a little bit, and I would say, oh, absolutely you can, if you're looking at these specific programs that are actually a really fantastic fit for your goals and your skills. And so those are the two sort of drivers for me. And those have been some real, just fantastic highlights of my career with Private Prep. Just getting to help those students understand how they really can showcase their talents and achieve their goals. So yeah, so that's why we're all here tonight, I also assume, and I'll be happy to answer any of the questions that come up along the way during our conversation. So one thing I want to just kind of like set the scene with, just for everyone out there who might be thinking like, I like art, or I like an artistic discipline. It's a hobby, it's a passion. I'm not really sure if that's something that I would want to study in college. That's okay. There are going to be ways that you can leverage your talent inside your application process, whether that's formally going the arts admissions route or not, or just talking about it as a hobby. But I do want to flag for the students that are watching, but then also maybe for some nervous parents that at least in a pre-COVID world, the creative industries are really thriving, and there's a lot of fast growth, particularly around the intersection of design and sort of new media, and how that's intersecting in a variety of different art forms. So there are a lot of really amazing ways that universities are intersecting with that sort of growth. And so there are some really cool programs out there that sort of straddle the creative arts and business, or the creative arts and some other form of liberal arts, because we're kind of living in more of a hybrid universe, where students are learning multiple things and then applying them in really creative ways in their professions and industries. And one of the things that I think is really amazing about art programs or art classes, artistic classes, creative classes in college is that usually the bedrock of those programs is some kind of design thinking, which is an actual like term coined by Stanford and the sort of creative industries. But this design thinking is a particular kind of problem solving, marrying your creative talents along with creative problem solving skills, creative communication skills, emotional intelligence, and some of those other like really highly sought after transferable skills. And so that's some of the stuff that I just enjoy engaging with my students now, to highlight for them that they're actually, oftentimes, if you've been involved in a creative pursuit, you already have these skills. And so your task is just to bring them out and highlight them in your applications, and then just get to town once you're in college, just continue to learn and grow. So there are two big buckets that I wanted to just give an overview for everybody in terms of the way that students usually come to us for support. And those are students that think they do want to major in an art form of some kind and are thinking very, very much that they might pursue that kind of career. And so they want pre-professional training and education at this moment in time. So they're saying, I'm ready to go to college and I want my college experience, the education, to be really grounded in that kind of design thinking, that pre-professional track. Those tend to be our BFA programs or conservatory programs. Sometimes those programs are housed at art institutes. Sometimes they're housed in major research universities like UCLA, USC, Michigan. And sometimes, of course, they're at like CalArts or RISD. These pre-professional programs tend to require portfolios or auditions as a part of their process, and it can oftentimes be the most important part of that application. So just referencing before, where I have a student that's like, oh, I could never get into NYU, and we start to really dig into the details of what they could provide in a portfolio. That portfolio is going to be the thing that that really highlights for the admissions office, hey, this is someone that we need. And then speaking of the admissions office, for a BFA program, oftentimes, those universities are going to have an art-specific portion of their admissions process. So either art-specific admissions offices for like the School of Music or the School of Visual Arts or Communications, or art-specific admissions officers within their university. And they're going to be reviewing those supplemental creative materials that you're submitting, the portfolios, the auditions. Sometimes it is in fact the faculty themselves, your future professors, that are looking over some of your portfolio materials. And then they will end up making recommendations to the overall university admissions office about, hey, here's our top crop of portfolios that we reviewed. Depending on your discipline, so arts admissions is for all different kinds of art. We use the term art as a big catch-all, but it can be dance, it can be creative writing, it can be video game design, it can be any and all of the different disciplines. There will be very specific requirements for the particular major or majors that you're looking to apply to in that BFA program. So you may be required to submit a big hefty portfolio if that's the route that you're looking to go for. The corollary there is our Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science liberal arts programs, the BA, the BS. These are going to be a more generous mix of 1/3 of your time would be more of that sort of studio or practice or major that you're pursuing, and then 2/3 of the time are going to be all your other academics. Whereas for the BFA, it's the other way around. So for this BA, oftentimes, this is very dependent on the specific preferences and rules of the university itself, but oftentimes you can include an optional creative supplement along with your application. And this is such a great opportunity for schools to get to know your talents, your passions, your perspectives, what matters to you, and a chance for you to show what makes you stand out, what makes you unique in that same way. So that's the big, like, overarching, overarching sort of things to kind of know. Can you apply to both? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I do every year have students that are really at a moment in time where they're certain that they want to study art, but there are things about the BFA program at a handful of schools that are really right for them. And then there's also things about the BA program at another handful of schools that are also really right for them. And so this is something that that you can pursue. Of course, you have a lot of work to do in terms of your applications when you're pursuing both, but completely possible to have a college list that has, has all of these involved. It's really about what makes you happy.
Marina, can I ask you a follow-up question based on
Yes.
what you're just asking that was just submitted that actually I was going to ask anyway, so thank you for
Yay.
what if a student loves a discipline like dance was the example here and has a real passion and significant experience in that discipline but doesn't plan to major in it? Because I think you were just talking about BFA, obviously you're majoring in that discipline, and then perhaps a BA program in art, but what about those students who might want to major in neuroscience or something completely different? How does that work?
Yes, absolutely. So, and I every year I have a wonderful crop of students for whom this is absolutely the accurate description. I have a wonderful student this year who is going to be a biology major at Emory and who is a really big dancer and submitted her career portfolio, and Emory was thrilled, and that was a great match. So one of the things that we did for that student that I just use as an example for here is when we were looking at her college list, dance was going to be really important to her. She didn't want to major in it necessarily because she knows she wants to do something in the STEM world, but she did want dance to be a big part of her college experience. So she was looking at BA schools that had robust dance programs. So maybe they do have a liberal arts dance major or a liberal arts sort of creative performing major that had the kinds of dance classes and dance ensembles that she was going to be really excited to join. And it was a big part of her application in terms of not just including creative portfolios, her dance reel, where we submitted different examples of her dancing. So video footage, photographs, her dance resume, and letters of recommendation from her dance teacher. We included those, but then she also used her supplemental essays as an opportunity to talk about how important this activity has been to her and really digging into why. Why is this important, and what was her unique perspective, her relationship to dance as an art form? And that's a really key thing when you're looking to kind of leverage your talent, is not just be like, hey, I like this thing, but really get intimate with it and start to really understand the why, the how, the what your perspective is. Yeah, I hope that answered.
So how would you suggest that students go about evaluating whether a school is going to have those programs or qualities? And is it appropriate for them ever to connect with faculty in the disciplines that they may have a talent, even if they might not major in it?
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the things too, if you, let's say you're a violinist and you are really excited about being a part of an ensemble, and you might even want to continue taking some individual lessons. Different universities, this is like a really specific example, but different universities will have particular procedures about how you can get some of those like one-on-one instruction. And sometimes that even counts as a class. I mean, it is a class. You're having a one-on-one class with your professor. It's just, it's just a studio practice for violin. So it's a really great thing. In the old world, we would say, great, when you're going for your campus visit, go ahead and connect with the music department administrator at your liberal arts college, and say, I'm coming by for a visit and I'm really interested. Could I talk with you, a student, and or identify the violin faculty, or like the faculty for your discipline that would make the most sense, that you're the most excited to connect with. Since we can't do that right now, we'll just take that into the virtual world, and that's still available to you. So I would recommend that over the summer, for students that are the rising seniors now, looking ahead, it's really great to connect with the departments and communicate that you're interested in being involved in those, the activities, the classes, the ensembles. Yeah, it'll give you really good information for your YS essays as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's always great to make that connection with the professor. Yeah. And usually they're very happy to talk with you and nerd out about your art form. Yeah.
I love the term nerd out.
Me too.
Yeah. If you're a student who is not applying for art, but will be using your talent in some way, how do you build a resume that can appeal both to the admissions office that's reviewing you for just your typical major, and perhaps also performing arts faculty or music faculty, whatever your discipline is?
So are you saying like someone who's like a hybrid?
Yeah.
Someone who's got talents in multiple areas. Cool. So this is interesting, because this question can actually apply to the BA world and to the BFA world. And that's that you want to identify which one's like your spike, like which one is the one for you that's a little bit more your natural fit, or the one you're a little bit more passionate for, and kind of lead with that. And so in a resume, I would make sure that you know, all of your singing, all of your music work, anything in that realm is sort of collected in one place under a header that makes sense in terms of music or singing. And then I would have all of your dancing or whatever, the visual art, in a different header, and kind of collect all of that work together, so that the narrative of I am multidisciplinary talented comes forth really obviously in the resume. This is something, and you will need to, by and large, you will liberal arts programs will only allow you to submit one creative portfolio. There are like a handful of random exceptions where sometimes they'll let you submit more. But in general, think of like one portfolio. And so you might submit under music if that's where your major talent is, but you may be in a position where inside that space, you can also include some examples of your sort of major visual artwork. And that's because the arts really don't exist in silos. Like, you know, art just is inherently interdisciplinary. And so faculty and universities are genuinely excited to know that, know that you have talents beyond just your major talent. So this actually can apply for BFA programs and BFA portfolios as well as for BA. Yeah. Yeah.
Another great question someone submitted: does creative social media help for the arts?
Yes. There are wonderful things about this, and then there are things about it that make my skin crawl, but yes, it does. We live in the world where social media presence can be really impactful, and followers can be really impactful as well. You don't need to run out and get millions of followers. It's not about that when applying for college. But if you do maintain an online presence that is really authentic to your personality and makes sense for the discipline that you work in, and you would be happy to continue to grow that, wonderful. Put forward effort into growing that online media presence, whether that's an Instagram handle or whether that's creating a website that can be a really bare bones website. Essentially think of it like a business card website, a little about me, and then some very select pieces that can showcase your visual art or your film or whatever it is that you do. There are, of course, other students for whom being online is like a huge part of their extracurricular life. And if you've been maintaining a blog or a video channel for years, fantastic. Keep growing it, and you can have one of those sort of maximal websites. The thing that you want to just ensure if you're one of those maximal people, is that you're curating it such that when I land there, I'm going to look at the things you want me to look at. So you want to really make sure that your best work is pinned to the top, because I'm going to have a short bandwidth to review yours. So make sure that I can find that good stuff right at the top. But that can be a really awesome thing for, we've seen in the last few years, even inside the Common App, some colleges have said, if you maintain a web presence and would like to share it with us, please insert the URL here. So there are formal ways to include it. And then there can also be really creative ways to include it. You can embed it inside your resume. You can include a link inside your activity list. You can use the additional information section. So many awesome ways to share your web presence. Yeah.
Sort of piggybacking on that, what you were just talking about, do you recommend that many students create some kind of web presence in the event that, you know, there are some schools that don't have art supplements, that don't provide a space for a portfolio? Then a student might sort of be able to sneak in some sort of
Yeah.
art.
I love sneaking in.
Sneaking it in.
I love thoughtfully sneaking it in. Let's be real.
Right, of course, within the rules. Is that something that you recommend students do? Especially, I'm thinking in particular about students who I hear from a lot who say, oh, maybe I don't have 8 to 12 pieces that I'm really proud of, but I have 6. Could I share them in a different way? Is that something you recommend?
It depends, right? It's our favorite answer, Rachel. It depends. It depends. For a student who's applying to a school that doesn't accept a creative portfolio, that tells me that that school isn't going to value this sort of like extra supplement in an outsized way. So if we're going to sneak something in, we have to make sure that it's really outstanding, such that it's going to catch the regular old Joe admissions officer's eye and really complement the other parts of the application. But it is, as you know, one of my favorite things to do. And some of my really like just joyous successes over the past few seasons have been strategizing with a student about, okay, your resume is fantastic. I know you want to major in biology and be a doctor. This is awesome, but can we talk about how talented you are in the arts? And can we please sneak in 2 or 3 of your incredible digital collages that you've been making? And so, yes, there are times where that's not only really appropriate, but can be extremely strategic. Yeah. In those instances, though, I would say be very thoughtful about how you include that maybe biology is your primary interest at a liberal arts college, but be willing to then also say, I'm also interested in like a minor in art, because that's going to help the admissions officer see the fuller picture for you.
Right. And students can keep in mind that at schools like that, you don't actually have to make minor in art if you don't want to. It's all
you can change your mind.
Part of telling your story. Yes. A lot of room.
Yes, it's just part of telling the story. Yeah, absolutely.
Someone asked, how much of an impact does participating in arts related activities have in the application process? So school plays and musicals, or some kind of art related club, things like that.
Colleges, you know, colleges are really excited about how you have authentically pursued your passion. And so if the arts have been a big part of your life, you've been in the school plays and you've maybe been on the newspaper, you want to make sure that you're really communicating the amount of time that you spent. Like being in the school play takes up a lot of time. And so you want to really like communicate that. And that's not just time that you spent like at school in rehearsal, it's also the time that you spent memorizing your lines and thinking through your character and, you know, getting into makeup, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be really powerful. Can you show up at your new school and decide you want to do the school play for the first time? Absolutely. So you're not limited, but it can be a really powerful part of your story. And colleges increasingly are, you know, just really excited about students who have discovered a passion or two and are sort of coming in already as like a mini expert in either their academic field or their hobby, and with an open mind, of course, to growing and learning and changing while they're there. Yeah. So it's important. Pursue vigorously. And I guess like an additional answer to that for some schools and BFA programs, or for some schools where you really would be pursuing like a visual art or a design, it's really important. And it can be beneficial to do a summer program in the arts. And this is something that we sort of go back and forth with in regular college admissions land. Sometimes we say like doing the summer program at a university is great, but isn't going to give you a leg up in admissions. Sometimes it actually is true for the artists. Participating in certain summer programs can help give you a leg up inside your process. Yeah.
So this process, whether a student is applying for a BA or a BFA, can often have many moving parts if a student is using art for their application. And unfortunately, we sometimes see students engage with that really late, and then surprise, on October 31st, discover an extra essay that's in the art supplement or something like that. What are some of those things that students should keep in mind that might be different if they're using art as a part of their application process?
Yeah. This is so good. I'm glad you brought it up right here at the end. It's important. Early is good in terms of planning, because there are so many different moving parts inside a portfolio, and it's really hard to pull a portfolio or an audition together at the last minute. Some schools will be looking for virtual auditions, so a pre-screen video or a video statement. So not just you're writing your essay, but now actually like doing a 1-minute video statement. That takes time to plan and to execute. So starting to work on your stuff earlier is really, really wonderful. And I'll just highlight for everyone that sometimes some of these programs have different deadlines than the major university deadline. So if you're looking at like a specialty program at like USC, like has a really cool hybrid, the Iovine and Young program, or something in their music school, music business, those are going to have a December 1st deadline, whereas USC's deadline is January 15th. If you're looking to be involved in the arts at Michigan, that application is due before Michigan's early action deadline. So you do really want to kind of get a good sense of what your college list is, and then monitor the requirements for your discipline, so you can be prepared. Yeah.
Okay, so in parting words, in addition to researching programs of interest, knowing what the requirements are and being able to plan ahead, what should students be doing this summer with their time if they're interested in the arts? How can they use time?
Be creative, and pursue what you love, and then also feel totally free to like go down the rabbit hole of like all of a sudden being like, I'm really interested in listening to a lot of Bach, or like I'm really interested in like spending a lot of time with Photoshop and getting to know that. The summer, and this summer in particular, is such a great time where you're home, or you're local, and you can create. I just earlier today, this really is true for every single discipline. So even if we think, oh, but you can't be in person, how can you make a dance? Oh, you can't be in person, how can you make a play? Get creative. There's just a beautiful piece that I watched earlier today that was created by some Bard College students, an incredible Zoom play. So you can dream big and then just push the technology as far as you can go. I do think your generation is going to create some really, really cool stuff. If you're a visual artist and you are going to apply this year, spend this summer making work. Make work that is physically larger than you have ever made it. Scale is so awesome for visual portfolios. Make it tinier than you've ever made it. Don't just stick to your 8 by 11 or your 12 by 14. Get out of those sort of boxes and comfort zones. Make a film. There's also, I will say, some of the leading art programs have very effectively transitioned to online work. You can, if you're a dancer, you now have access to like every single Alvin Ailey and Martha Graham dancer's Instagram, where they are teaching classes like live every day. So you can really get amazing technique. RISD has just posted a bunch of their awesome classes for the summer that are all going to be online, and that really cool format of getting to have that instruction and then having the day to think and dream, that's still very possible. So there's lots of resources out there. And I do think that the online art programs that have come out will be pretty successful. Different than your high school, hopefully, than some of the high school online transitions have been. Yeah.
Crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Although bravo to all those schools who've made such amazing pivots with no time or resource. So yeah, but that's and then okay, this is the last thing. Think about what your unique perspective is, and kind of jot down things that come to you along the way, so that you'll be able to talk about why you make what you make, how you make what you make, not just that you did it.
Those are great parting words. Thank you so much for your time, Marina. Thank you everyone for joining us. We, again, will send out the recording tomorrow, along with a blog post we have about arts admissions. If you have any specific questions, feel free to just respond to the email you get tomorrow, and we'll make sure to get you an answer. And everyone, be well and go forth and create, as Marina said. Thanks so much.
Create. Bye.
Bye.